Jai Hind, guys. So I hope you all had a good 80th Independence Day yesterday, and I hope you enjoyed your day, and I, of course, did. And that is what my topic is for today on our independence, and regarding the freedom that we have got, from 1947. And I, on purpose, I want to speak on this topic today because I felt that if I speak, I would have spoken yesterday. It would have been more of an emotional kind of video that I would have made because of the day that we were in. And normally that happens. That's what we always joke with each other, that when it comes to 15th August or 26th January, we get all excited and we say a lot of things about how proud we are of our country and about our freedom fighters, what they did, which they did. And I don't see any harm in celebrating it, but if it is there throughout the year, not the end, the same energy, but even if it's 60-70% out of it, I think we will be able to do a lot of good changes in our country. So that is why I thought I'll speak today. Just like the football topic, I felt I'll speak on the Indian football, not when the World Cup is on, but when the World Cup is done, and we can then reflect and we can discuss, or I can talk about it in a much calmer way rather than getting too emotional and speaking on a subject. So before I get into my topic, I wanted to just speak a little about the FCRA bill that I spoke about it last week. And I saw that a lot of my right-wing friends, Kattar BJP supporters, government supporters came to me, and they're saying that the government has succumbed to pressure. They put it for JPC, which is the Joint Parliamentary Committee. The bill has gone there, and the government has succumbed to the pressure of the US. And my answer to them is that see, we should not unnecessarily make knee-jerk conclusions or react, because just for the information that even the CA bill, which was very important and very sensitive, had gone through the JPC in 2016, and then it came in Parliament again in 2019, and it got passed. And the same was for the Waqf board bill, which went into JPC and then came, and it was passed, as we saw, in the Parliament. So we should not conclude things that the government is succumbed under pressure or anything. There is a process. I think at times it's good that it goes to JPC, and all where members of various parties discuss the pros and cons. They speak to all stakeholders so that we ensure a good bill comes. So it should not be that the ones who are doing honest work, who are getting foreign funding and using it for the nation, should face any kind of consequences because of the government being very strong on the laws. So our aim is to get those people who are taking funds from foreign and using it against the nation, against the development of the country. So yeah, so we should just at times, I would say to my right-wing friends, just be a bit patient, because I understand we want this bill to come and the action should be taken against those who are working against the nation. But that is also important. And another thing I wanted to say, when you say that we have succumbed to the pressure of US and US is dictating our policies, then just for your information, India has purchased their highest amount of fuel from Russia in the past couple of months. It is our record purchases of fuel from Russia. So we should we should be just calm, and we should understand that why the government does it. Is nothing to do with pressure. If India was in pressure, we wouldn't have been buying Russian oil, and that even record numbers from Russia, and basically refining and exporting to Europe or US or these countries. So that was my thing about FCRA, and it is linked to pretty much what I'm going to speak now regarding what our nation has been doing and what we can do together to make India better, and take towards that target of 2047 of Viksit Bharat, where we become target to become a developed nation. So just to start off with, so over the years, yeah, so 80 years, this is the 80th Independence Day. I would of course say it is a contribution of all the governments that have worked for India, and we need to give them credit, because at times because of the politics, we go into sweeping remarks where we end up saying 70 years, 80 years, there's nothing been done. And then we also see that there are remarks of past 10, 12 years, there's nothing been done, which is not true. both statements are not true. Over the past 80 years, a lot of things have been done. We have achieved a lot. We can always talk about the speed at which we achieved and why we didn't achieve this or why we didn't achieve that. But in the end, we have achieved what we have achieved, and we should be proud of it. So coming to the you know issue of independence. So what I've seen is that over the past few years, you know, what I have been able to witness is what I can say real independence. Because what happens is that we see a lot of talk of freedom, and there are a lot of people who say there is no freedom here, freedom of speech, and freedom to eat, or freedom to this, freedom to that. And I just find it very delusional, because in the end you are sitting in your rooms, you're sitting in your AC rooms, and you're commenting whatever you want to comment, you are saying whatever you can come on the media, social media, and voice your opinion. So I really don't understand what kind of freedom that one needs. It is, you've got all the freedom to say what you want, and no one is taking any action against you. Yes, there are people who will counter you. At times people go overboard, which of course I don't agree with. But there is no doubt that there is freedom in this country to say what you want. But the reason I call someone delusional when they say that we don't have freedom, there is, and about independence, are we actually independent and all that? I think they should do some homework and see over the years how, what kind of state there were certain people were living in. So I give you again two examples. I spoke about it before. One was in Kashmir, where there was on paper independence since 1947, but they really weren't independent. They were all living a life in dark. They were all living a life where a lot of the times the resources were cut down, the internet was cut down, and we were seeing that they were in a very, very difficult situation. And in today's day, as we would have seen yesterday in their Independence Day as well, that we can see the tiranga being flown with proudly by them. They are openly walking on the streets, and that is the real independence that we are able to see, that those people are getting, and those people that they deserve. So when we talk about freedom, we should see there that what kind of freedom those guys have. And in today's date, I'm glad that they have got that freedom to do what they want. And of course, Article 370, the abrogation of Article 370 has played a big part in it. And so we should at times just step back and see that we come on 15th August and 26th January and talk about our independence and freedom and everything. But it is always important to see what there is a lot of part of India that had been suffering even through these years, and is finally getting the real independence that I would say that they deserve. Another area was the Naxalite issue, where have been able to defeat Naxalism. And again, there was no freedom, there was no independence. We saw a viral video that has been there for coming for the past few days, of the girls who were walking on the ramp, basically doing a fashion show. Those were the same girls or women who had to go into Naxalism, and there was no kind of freedom. They were forced to go into that. They were walking around with this Naxalite uniforms, and having arms and guns in their hands, and having to do that. So what kind of freedom that they had. So it was great to see that today they have got that real independence, and they are now finally doing what they want to do. And as the Home Minister gave an example of a girl that she was basically putting nail polish in her nails, and she started crying. So someone asked her, why are you crying? And she said that I was picked up at the age of 7, and since then I have been doing the work that they have been giving. I've been carrying a gun, I've been walking in a uniform, and these kind of things that I wanted to do, I was not allowed to do. And imagine a girl crying because she is now getting the freedom to wear a nail polish. So imagine the kind of state that those guys were living in. So at times it is important to see what is happening across our country. Leave the world, what is happening across a country, what kind of state certain people were staying in. I'm not saying everything is now hunky-dory, everything is good. There is still a lot to be done. But when I see what happened in Kashmir, or what had happened to especially these girls in Naxalism, I'm just glad that they are now getting what they want. And yeah, it is commendable to see that, and we have to give the government the credit where it is due, that these things that have been long pending for years have finally been sorted, and real independence is provided to these people of ours who have been living in the dark for so many years. And to link to that, I would like to speak on what the Prime Minister said, that we have been able to defeat Naxalism, but there are these, you know, I'm not able to recollect the name that he was saying. That he was basically saying the, you know, urban Naxals, who he again gave them a different term, which of course triggered them. And he said that, these are the people who are still there in our society, who are trying to see that how we can create some kind of anarchy in our country, whether it was in Kashmir or Naxalism or these protests that we've seen. I don't want to again start going into who they were and all that. Well, I mentioned it in my previous video, but I think we know what the Prime Minister was referring about. So again, he was saying that the same thing, that we have to stand against these internal forces, and we have to, as Indians, be on the side of democracy, not be on the side of the government or be on the side of this party or that party. Be on the side of democracy, because in the end, violence and all this kind of fear that has been tried to be spread over the years, even we saw during the US-Iran war that, there are all kinds of fake news going on, that we are not going to get our fuel, we're not going to get LPG, and fertilizers are going to be stopped, and all these things that are done on purpose, so that people get triggered, and people get angry, that on the government not being able to get these supplies, and some kind of violence happens, some kind of anarchy happens. So we should be on the side of democracy, and that is what is our duty as Indians, isn't it? That in the end, we are a democracy, and we will choose our governments, whether it's in the center, whether it's in states, and not anarchy should definitely not win. And that's what the Prime Minister talked about, that we have to defeat uh, the ones who are propagating this anarchy in our country. And as our former Prime Minister also said, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, who's basically his death anniversary is today coincidentally, and he said that that sarkare aayingi jayengi, political parties will come and will go, but our country is above everything. Our democracy should be alive, and that is upon us. It is not just a government thing. It's upon us to ensure that we preserve that democracy. And as I told you about Article 51A, that the integrity, sovereignty, and unity of the nation is our duty as well. But at the same time, I would like to tell to the government, and to especially to the Prime Minister, that yes, you have said the right things, but there is action to be taken from your end as well, because in the end, the people are there with you. People are there for democracy. People are agreeing with you that yes, democracy should be winning against this attempt of anarchy. But you have got all the machinery in your hand. You have got the intelligence agencies, you have got the police, you have got the army, you have got everyone on all the machinery on your side. So it is for your government now to ensure that these elements are not able to come again, because they will come again, because they have seen in the protests that these kind of attempts are leading to the government reacting, either taking a law back or making a minister resign. So they will come back. So you as the government have to now take responsibility, and that yes, okay, the message is good, but we are the ones who have to ensure that this gang of urban Naxals, or whatever, Buddhijeevi Naxals, whatever you want to call, are the ones who are stopped. So it is important, because in the end, we are talking about the nation's progress, right? And these are the ones who are trying everything to stop the nation's progress, whether it is through stopping development projects, or on the name of environment try to stop our country to progress, or anything, as on the name of students, on the name of farmers, on the name of anyone. So it is, of course, we as Indians will do our bit, but the government has to do their bit as well. So it is upon them equally. And coming to the other thing, so if I'm going to talk about independence and about freedom, and if I don't talk about the women of this country, then I think I will be doing injustice to this video. So over the years, of course, especially I've seen over the years that there has been a lot of positive development, because unfortunately the kind of news, the media world that we live in, or social media, it tries to show that things have not been good for the women of our country, which is not true. If you look at every sector, whichever it be, whether it is education, whether it is workforce, in a corporate world, or whether it is in sports, academia, anywhere that you go, if you go into space, or if you go into any sector, the women of the country have not only been participating more or being getting a part, they are actually going into leadership positions, and they are making their mark. And that is the true sign of a country that is moving ahead. And these things happen, not because of talking big. It is because of giving certain basic things to them. So it was not like they're asking for something like a big house, or they're asking for anything that is not reasonable. They're asking for basic things. So what we did is we gave them those basic things, like a bank account, as simple as that. You give them a bank account, you give them a loan, whether it was the Mudra loan, that is the government scheme. They are able to run their business, and it is a sense of empowerment, isn't it, that before, these kind of women, especially if you look at the rural area, they were not even having a bank account. And once they get that, they feel that, okay, now this is something that is on my name, that's something I can own. And basis that, they are setting up their businesses, and small businesses, and they are running it, whether they are running it through their homes, whether they are running it through their offices, and they are doing really well. And all across, if you see, whether it is providing toilets, because toilets is not just about cleanliness, but it was also about the dignity and respect of women. So in today's day, the kind of coverage we have been able to make for toilets, whether it is the coverage for providing water across the nation, pipe water across the nation, again we have been able to do a lot there. Whether it is healthcare, whether it is providing medicines at a cheaper rate, Jan Aushadhi, as we say. So there are a lot of programs that have come. Awas Yojana again, is give, if you keep the house on a woman's name, there are certain benefits that they get. So there are a lot of programs that have been able given an opportunity to the women to come in the forefront, and start leading the country, rather than just being a part, or just asking that we want this, we want that. They are just asking for the equal opportunity. And once we are seeing that, we can see how much progress the women of our country have been made. And if you see even the politics, if you see election after election, whether it's state election or central elections, it is they who are deciding which party is going to win the election. So there is a lot of progress being made, and I'm proud that in our country that kind of progress is seen when it comes to women, because we have been getting a lot of lectures from other nations on what is happening in our country regarding our women. You just go and see their country, they won't have too much to show as compared to what we have. We can give them examples after examples of every sector where we have got these women who are doing really well. So that is there. And we saw another news of late, that we have got our first pilot in combat, who is again a first women who has been able to crack that. And it just shows that in every sector, as I told you, every sector, our women are doing well. And it just shows that this is what real independence is. We can always come and celebrate every year, but if we see that our women are not progressing, then what kind of independence and what kind of freedom we are talking about? Then we are still the same India that we were there before. So I'm glad that improvement has happened. There's more to be done. Of course, there's more to be done, whether it is law and order, whether it is giving them more opportunities and more participation. So that is a process that is there, but at least we can see that there is something that is moving. And I'm just glad that is something that is happening. So that is another thing that is a good part for us, that is happening for our nation. And then it comes to what more can we do when it comes to making India the country that we want. So one thing I would say, so there are actually 5 points I have, so I'll go one by one. So one thing is the mindset. I've told it before, I'll tell it again. The mindset that we have as Indians has to change as a whole. Of course, it is changing over the years, but what has happened is that even after our independence, this colonial mindset has not completely left us. So, so like for example, now I'm speaking in English. So the reason I'm speaking in English is not that I can't speak in Hindi. Of course, I'll be proud to speak in Hindi, but so that my foreign friends or everyone can, also listen to my video, and it will be easier for them to understand. If I speak in Hindi only, our fellow Indians will understand, and even my South friends would prefer me to speak in English. So I speak in English for that reason. But so we should be proud of who we are, and we should not feel inferior to anyone. And unfortunately, we felt that we have been feeling that over the years, and it's still there. But that mindset has to go away, and that will only go away once we and I start with myself and say that my country is the best, and we will make the improvements as we go ahead. We have achieved a lot, but there's a lot of things to be done. There are a lot of problems. We all know what the problems are. It's not like it's rocket science. I see some people or my friends who come to me and talk to me about problems, this problem, that problem. I'm like, you're giving me 5 problems, I'll give you 20 problems about this country. It's not a big thing. It is well known for us what our problems are, whether it is corruption, whether it is cleanliness, or whether it is pollution, population. We know what the problems are, so it's not a big thing. The thing is about how we can together find a solution to it. That is the main thing. And for that, first thing is to get your mindset right, and to think that you can do it, and rather than looking at yourself inferior, or feel that that the foreign or the Britishers are superior to us, or the US are superior to us, or anyone who is superior to us. We don't need to do that. We have shown that. And especially if you see our foreign policy, look at the mindset that we have. It's very clear that India is a country that will run its policy the way India wants. We are not inferior to anyone. We are as equal to anyone, and we will come to the table and speak as equals. And once we have that mindset, and ensure that this colonial mindset is gone, and for that, civilization plays an important role, as you're seeing over the years, that change in that India that we want to see, whether we are getting back to where we were before. All this Britishers or Mughals took over, and all they had that hold on us, and even in today's day they have certain hold on certain section of our society. So we have to get away from that. Have that mindset about, oh, this guy does not know English, oh, look at it. It does not matter if that guy does not know English. He's speaking in his local language or regional language, or he's speaking in Hindi. It does not matter. In the end, what knowledge does that person has is what eventually matters. How talented he is, that's what eventually matters. So that mindset change has to happen, so which is I would say very important. Second thing, I think, as I alluded it before, that we have to be together as Indians and ensure, not just on Independence Day or 26th January, but every day have that nationalism wore on our sleeve, and ensure that we are together in this, and we will ensure that democracy is going to win, and anarchy is not going to get any place. And these urban Naxals, or whatever name you want to give them, I'm not interested in the name, but we know who they are. I'm not going to again talk about it. We as Indians should ensure democracy should win. That is all it is. And for that, it is very simple, is to be together and do the right thing. Do the right thing. When we come to elections, vote for the party we want, and once the elections are done, ensure that whichever government is there, whether it is this government, that government, we are there for them, and we believe that as democratically they are elected, they should be there for whatever 5 years like that they have been getting. But of course, question them as well. It does not matter whether it's central government, state government, whichever it is. We have to question them. We have to criticize them, and that is our duty as well, right? As taxpayers, as voters, we should do that. But the point is that democracy should be the winner and not anarchy. So that is second. And third is on the resources, that it is the small things that we do, whether it is saving on water, saving on power, saving on our food, the small things that we can do to save the resources of our country, because we end up wasting so many resources that eventually as a nation we are losing a lot. And I think that there is a lot to learn from a country like Japan, who uses the resources absolutely well. Their people, you should see them. No one is telling them. No one is, no government is forcing them to do it. It is something that they do it for the nation, and that is what even true nationalism is all about: is to use your resources as much as you can. If you can save on water, save on this power, or save on food. As much as you can do it, you just do it. It's as simple as that. And that will help the nation in a big way if we help conserving our resources or using our resources as much as we can. And you'll see the change happening, and it is not going to happen overnight, but it will eventually happen. So that is another thing. And the fourth thing I would like to say is to encourage Atmanirbhar Bharat. As Prime Minister said, that we are so reliant on other nations, especially in context to oil he was mentioning. So we should ensure that how we can use more Indian products, more made in India products, like anything it can be a brand that is outside India, like an Apple or maybe as OnePlus that I use. But if it is made in India and we buy those products, it eventually helps our overall revenue. And it is same going for tourism. Rather than thinking of always touring outside India, there are so many beautiful places in India where we can travel and encourage the tourism of our country. And this can be done by us. It is not just the government has to start marketing, or the Prime Minister needs to market. It's our job as Indians to not only do it ourselves, but also encourage other people or tell foreigners. I've got a lot of foreign friends. I always tell them, come to India. When I was in Australia, I used to always tell them, come to India. There's a lot of beautiful things to see, right from north to south. There are a lot of places to visit that there's worth watching. So again, to ensure that we encourage Atmanirbhar Bharat, made in India, that is something that we can also do as Indians. So that is also equally important. And the last thing is, of course, we all see around us is maintaining cleanliness. It is a most basic thing. And what I've seen is that we try to blame it on education, and we say it's the poor people who do that. It is not the case. I've seen educated people littering everywhere, not even bothering, spitting everywhere. So it is the basic thing that we do. It is again something that is easily achievable if we do it, start it with ourselves, and then of course encourage everyone else that we have to ensure that cleanliness has to be kept in our nation. And I remember going to Sri Lanka, so there was nothing much difference that I saw as compared to our south states. But what I saw is the level of cleanliness that they keep is really amazing. So that is something that we keep. Of course, our south states have improved over the years, but there's always a lot to improve. Look at some of our beaches; it's very very dirty. When it goes to we go right up till Goa. Some of the beaches are still really dirty, and it is not done by the government, right? It is done by us. Now we, the citizens, we travel everywhere, and we do we are littering in our own country. So and it's our loss. It is our future generations loss that will be there, because it will lead to various issues, it will health issues or anything. So it is a basic thing that I hope we can follow. And once we do these few things, you see yourself that the things will eventually improve. It is not always the government. Yes, the government will be accountable. The government should be questioned, regardless of which party, which central, state. All of them should be questioned, accountable, no doubt in that. But what more we can do as Indians, that's something that I think we should reflect on. And 15th August and is a very good day, I thought, to reflect that. Even though it does not matter, it's today 16th August, we can reflect today and always see that what better I can do as an Indian, what better I can help in improving my country, is what will eventually make a difference. Because as the Prime Minister said, that the governments don't change the country, the governments don't bring the actual change. The actual change is brought by the people of our nation. The 1.4 billion people of our nations can make that change. And once we do that, then that target of Viksit Bharat will be achieved. There will be no doubt in that, because we have seen it in the past. We've seen it even now, that once Indians unite and we decide that we want to achieve something, then it does not matter what kind of challenges come across, because there will be a lot of challenges. It is not that going to be that simple. There will be challenges, as I told you. Internal, external forces are there. There will be a lot of challenges that we will face. But if we are together, I believe that the change that we want to see in India will happen. And so that is what in the end we should be proud of, right? Once we start achieving these things, we will start feeling that this is what real independence is about. This is what freedom is all about. It is not just about coming on a particular day and just talking and saying that okay, this happened, very nice. Of course, we should talk about. We should be proud of what has happened in the past. I am not saying that, but it is more about reflecting and saying, okay, this is what we have achieved, but these are the lot of things that we need to improve as well as a nation. And there are a lot of problems that we know. We all know what they are, but the solutions are also there, and the solutions lie with me and you and all of us. And once we do it, come together and start addressing those, as I told you, these few points that I have mentioned. Of course, we will have more that we can look to work on, but if these are the few points that we work on, I think we can achieve what we want to achieve as a nation. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be back next week. I'll see what something new I'll think about, some new issue that I can talk about, and hope you enjoy your Sunday. Bye bye, take care.